How's it going, guys? You good?
Hey everyone, how you guys doing?
Yeah,
Yeah,
good.
good. You guys?
Awesome. Yeah, Tom, I just saw the market pull back. I was on a call and I look and what, 62K Bitcoin? What's happening? I thought peace in the Middle East was today and now my bags are down. Give me an update.
It's a bear market. That's it. It's just that's honestly that's all you need. It's just it's not the asset at the minute, is it? Like it's just there's this big all the crypto people that I like used to follow on Twitter, like the ones I used to consider were like good traders or just um good like market participants in general would sort of like see where the flows are, go where like see where the puck is sort of going. They've all gone. Like they've all left crypto. So like chasing AI, robotics, this, that, whatever. Um, crypto, I think it will have its time in the sun again. But it's just it's not. This is what I was saying to you like a week or two ago. It's not cheap
Yeah,
enough yet. Like I don't like Sol when it was at 80. It's just sweet. Like but it doesn't look cheap. It just looks down. But Sol at 30, sub 50 starts looking cheap. 45, 50 start picking some up. But then you look at what the winners are. They're things like hype, which is at all time highs or close to all time highs. People aren't look at that and go sweet and just chase it. So I think what what are you going to look at and sit there and go, cool, that looks attractive, that's a no-brainer. I don't I know like Assad, others will sit there and say like Hyperliquid and things like this, and I do get that because it is so strong. But again, when the price is like sort of where it is or where it's been the last couple of weeks and stuff, I don't know, it just doesn't feel super attractive to me. That's unless you guys see it differently. But
How do you see it, bro?
um, um, I think it's good that the market is pulling back. I think I'm still like almost like 99.9% in cash. So good to see market is pulling back. Um, Again, yeah, I feel like we are going to a stage where like crypto is like almost like people are saying it's dead. I see it on my timeline. There's oh, crypto is dead. There is so much thing going on. So I think it's a good spot to be in. I think crypto will have its time again. Um, I'm just like you know ready to deploy whenever there is a good opportunity. There are many stuff that are undervalued. Like it just we can just start picking up the moment like macro changes a little bit. And yeah, I'm just curious what happened with like Warsh. He was supposed to be the cutting rates as Trump said, and he goes like Trump goes like whatever Warsh, you know, became a
Yeah. Yeah, but he's in a bit of an impossible position. Like I put a comment earlier, I think he would be the most dovish dub and the least hawkish hawk. So like, what do you want him to do? Right? He literally can't cut now. Like hands are tied. It makes no sense. Him trying to kind of play neutral. I think the whole avoiding forward guidance too. It's like, what else are you going to tell people? Right? Like you've got nothing positive to say. So you kind of have to play the middle line. So yeah, I don't know. I think he's in a bit of a pickle, to be honest. I think that Tom, the market's um like pricing in one rate hike cut, rate hike by end of year,
October.
October. You think it happens?
No,
Why?
I think he's talking hawkish, like really hawkish, to try to anchor the bomb. But that so so this is a tad like technical, but he will. So what you saw yesterday is he spoke really hawkishly about targeting inflation. Uh, he still viewed the economy as strong, AI productivity being somewhat moving forward, but he really dialed it in on we're going to get prices back down. We've not been at the target rate for 5 6 years. They need to come back to target. We're not going to consider changing our 2% target until prices are back down, until inflation is back down to that 2% target. So he really like targeted it. I think, and what the reaction was the front end yields, US 2-year yields shot up 15 basis points or whatever it was. I think it's 15 basis points. And the back end, the 30-year bond yield came down, which is an anchoring, it's a flattening of the curve. What that's essentially saying is that rates are going to go higher in the short term, but the back end of the bond market it basically encourages people to buy longer duration debt because they can sit there
Yeah.
and say, okay, this guy's trustworthy. He is going to actually deal with this problem like higher inflation, etc. Where Powell was trustworthy as well, but he's more sitting there going like, oh, you know, what new acronym can we come up with to like smash a bit more liquidity into the system, blah blah blah. You know, so he would try to do the right thing, but also offset it and keep markets like going well. Warsh is trying to sort of, I don't think he'll hike, but I think he's trying to get this message across to anchor the bond market, which is front end bond yields go higher because now longer duration debt is more attractive to buy because you can go and buy a 30-year bond with this guy in charge because you think, sweet, he will deal with this inflation. If the inflation does more materially rear up than what it, and it's a weird time to turn hawkish because oil is down 30%, 35% in the last 4 weeks. So it's you've probably seen peak inflation in the most recent print or in the next print. So it's a strange time to then go and turn max hawkish, but I think he's done it to anchor the bond market. But I think if you see the inflation prints come in softer over the coming months, even just start to stop going up at the pace that they're going up and start to sort of peter out and stall out and then peter off. That will then the bond market will the bond market will have got the message. This guy will deal with this problem if it becomes a problem, but it's not a problem. It's actually all right. We don't actually need to do rate hikes, and the hikes will get unwound from the market. So I think, but again, that's a 3-4 month job. So I think prices are going to trend lower for the next like 1 to 2 months minimum. And there'll probably be like for Bitcoin, for instance, if it gets into 55, 56, I think it's not just a trade. I think it's a long-term buy. And it's probably a whopping trade as well because you'll get the bullish divergences on the daily, which will match up with the 3-day and the weekly. So I think it's cool. It lines up at the minute.
Do you guys think that he is doing the same thing as Trump did when he became a president? He kind of front-loaded all the bad news at the beginning, and then he went like, "Okay, we're not doing it." You know, like all these tariffs. Then he went ahead and had like agreements with a bunch of countries. But like he front loaded all the bad news in the beginning, and Warsh is coming and he kind of like front loading all the hawkishness, and then over time he will be like dovish, 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 dovish kind of thing.
Yeah, that's what I think. There's usually the market tries to test you've had like 5 chairs in the last 30 years or whatever. So like, there's not that many like historical data points to go off, but the market in the first few months would usually test a new Fed chair to be like, okay, how aggressive are they going to be against this problem? You know, if there is a problem, how aggressive will they be? And I think Walsh has just come out and sort of front run it all. We was expecting Walsh to be hawkish, but we thought the market was expecting him to be more hawkish than what he might actually be. But he ended up out hawking the expectation. Yeah. And I think that is to anchor like the bond market, turn up, say, I'm not going to take any shit. If there are problems, I'm going to deal with it. Don't worry, you can trust us. If we need to raise rates, I don't mind causing pain. Similar to Powell's Jackson Hole 2022 Jackson Hole speech, which is, we need to raise rates. There needs to be more pain to bring this inflation down. Walsh was like somewhat similar to that in like his like, we will do it if we need to, and he really sort of emphasized that. So I think he's trying to like front run the bond market testing him. That's my thinking on it.
Yeah, very interesting. I don't watch the meetings. I wait for your updates and review them after. If you had to evaluate his first meeting for someone, let's say you're a commentator for like a football game, give us a lowdown. Like, what was it like? How did it differ from Powell? How would you evaluate his performance? Because it seems like it was a fun one. It seems like it was very interesting. So evaluate it for us. Help us understand who this guy is and what it was like. Is it a good shift? Do you think he's going to be a good share over time? Obviously, he was unique. As Abro said, he kind of front-loaded negativity, but he also kind of said, we're doing this different now. I'm here. So give us an evaluation.
I think he's going to centralize power away, because at the moment there's the voting members and each one has a a fair vote. Like the Fed chair's vote does not count more than any other governor's vote. And he spoke about all these like different committees. There's going to be a committee for assessing the drivers of inflation, and there was a committee for all this other shite. Like, and it's just so he's almost like when he then got questioned about it, about saying, well, how do you view this and how do you view that? He just like, well, we're gonna have a committee for that. So he sort of took away the sort of scrutiny on himself, to really hold his own, to really say his own view for that to then be scrutinized and then for him to be held accountable. He sort of just sort of pushed it off to a committee view, and he didn't leave a dot, which is obviously like. He says he's not going to do forward guidance. He didn't leave a dot, which is basically him saying, well, I don't know where rates are going to be. He might not even do press conferences going forward. Like he said today, it was worthwhile doing a press conference coming to the stand as there were like things to say, I think is what he said. But he doesn't think that at every meeting there will be things to say. So I think what he's going to do is get all these committees together to say, like, this is how we view inflation, this is how we view this, blah, 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 blah. And then when he gets scrutinized, he can say, well, it's not just me or the other governors on the board. It's also these sort of committees that we've outsourced all this data to and this work to, blah, 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 blah. And that will then give him like a way out of certain times as well. And I think he's then going to sort of centralize the power sort of more towards himself. So it's the end of like, I was going to say, I don't know if he said it's the end of forward guidance, but I don't know if it definitely is the end of forward guidance because, he didn't want to put down a dot because there's a chance he might be advocating for a hike this year. So he doesn't want to show that. So it's just, but it was good. It was like for someone like me, everyone's texting me about, oh, what do you think of the football later? Like yesterday, that's the text messages we're getting. Obviously, like, I don't really care about the football, but the highlight for my evening was watching the Fed meeting, and obviously it was quite a good one. So like, because it was unique at least.
Yeah, no, very interesting. I think everyone had expectations of who he was going to be when he come in. Obviously, people said super dove because Trump like advocated for him. Obviously, the rumors of him not doing the dot. I don't know if there were rumors or he flat out said it. That's like, okay, well, that's negative because if he's not doing a dot, it's because he's worried about hikes. And then him coming in yesterday and saying, hey, dropping forward guidance. It's like people panic off of that a little bit. At the same time, I think it could be the smartest move, out there. We put a lot of stock into what they say. Perhaps he's trying to pull back on that for a little bit and say, look, we just got to see how the numbers look. And we're going to take it one step at a time, more so than trying to. Powell, the memes of Powell coming out, it's like, good afternoon, and everyone's like on edge to hear what Powell has to say. I don't know if I'm reading this incorrectly, but I feel like people are going to keep a closer eye on the actual data, kind of like you do.
Yeah, that's right.
Then,
I think that's
worry
right.
so much about his speech, at least for now.
Yeah.
When things get better and, maybe he's given that kind of, like he can be the guy to make everyone's bags go up. Maybe he brings a bit more personality into it. But for now, I think the smartest move for him is to almost stay a bit backwards, neutral. It's like the whole JD Vance with the Iran war thing. He's not too vocal. They're kind of sitting in the background, not trying to concern themselves too much. But I thought it was very cool. I enjoyed your update. And what was the ultimate takeaway then? So this overall hawkish, is this why the market pulled back hard? I saw $180 million of longs liquidated. Just now, Bitcoin dropped like 62, 63. So what's the score with that?
I think that's, abroad, you'll probably be better at this part than me, but I think that's to do with strategy as well. Because if you look, NASDAQ is up decently today. 2.2%, S&P up 1% basically. Bond yields have pulled back a touch. They're still basically at highs, but I then look at a lot of the tech. It's not up massively, but then Bitcoin's just been pounded again. So I think it's to do with like strategy and just like that sort of. Is this unwinding abroad?
Yeah, it looks terrible to be honest. Like I think it's very healthy if we get it out now during the bear market, then later. I remember writing a piece and I discussed it with KDB, and I was like stress testing how it can go down. And it's like the same thing. I remember, I think I mentioned to you guys as well. So it reminds the Luna UST kind of design, fundamentally speaking, and it's like losing its peg essentially. So it's like what is it, like $86 right now? This
Yeah.
like market is stress. So he, in order to get it back to like $100, probably Michael Saylor would have to sell either BTC or like MSTR like shares. So this is not really good. But like I'm glad it's happening now, not like during like full blown bull market where like everyone, party is ruined. So we
This was
need
only
to,
going to happen in a bear though, because he's the
yeah,
only marginal buyer left. So in a bull, you have all these other buyers, but in the bear, he's the only marginal buyer, and he's the one that's getting squeezed basically.
yeah, he's totally getting squeezed. Um, there is either way. He can just like either he needs to sell BTC to like show market that he will be able to repay the dividends, or just unwind this whole product. I don't think it's a good product, to be honest, as well. Like, if it scales too much, it really reminds this Luna UST kind of thing, um, and it not really good to have in a bear market environments. In a bull market, fine, but like we need Sailor out, like, or slightly reduce his impact on the market.
Delevered.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then I think it's like up only from there.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think, look, well, we're in the bear market. I don't know how many months you guys would consider we've been in the bear market. And I know, Tom, we think maybe like 9 more months, let's say. So, like, worst case scenario right now, we're in it. If he holds through and he handles this well and the market puts up with it, um, is him being in his current position and continuing down this path, isn't that going to be extra good for the bull market, or am I missing something?
No, I think because, as I said, he is. Um, how do I say it? I think he's a risk overhang for BTC, to be honest, because he has too much impact, in my opinion. And BTC is supposed to be like a decentralized, credibly neutral store of value. And if one person can bring down BTC this much, it's not really good, I think.
Yeah, but in a bull market, if he is just like, look, we're seeing how he's acting in the bear market, right? In the bull market, what are the cards he can play and what is he likely to do? And will that be a positive? I believe he played a part in us running to 127,
Yeah.
right? And I just think if he can navigate this bear correctly, and I understand the supply overhang, the risk factors, etc. I saw a tweet about he's going to be the first guy to see his company drop 99% twice, right? Because it happened in the past.
Yeah.
But if he can get through this bear market without pissing off shareholders or driving crypto people crazy, I can only see him as a net positive in the bull market, because it's almost like that confirmation bias too. People will say, some people will say, supply overhang is not great, he keeps buying more. Other people will say, well, this genius keeps buying more, so I guess I should have some confidence in it too. It's like when these institutions launch like new ETF products. It's like, well, if BlackRock are doing it and these like massive companies are participating, it gives it a level of social proof. So I think you can look at it two ways, but I think the bear market is the danger. If we go into a bull market and he's held the fort down, I'd like it, at least
Yeah,
for the price.
yeah, I agree. I think I'm a huge believer in like narrative follows the price, and I think if we keep like going up higher, I think narrative would be like Sailor is a genius, and we all back him, kind of thing.
I
And
agree.
it's like this, the sentiment shift like this here, like in crypto. So
Yeah,
it's
it'll be
very
interesting.
interesting to see. Very interesting to see.
Yeah, I guess a bit of a pivot on that. Obviously, we're talking about strategy and stuff. I've been spending a lot of time reflecting on, like, the bullish and the bearish kind of catalysts on the table. And we are macro guys. We always speak macro. Tom, no one is better than you at this. And we've said, look, we're probably headed lower. Obviously, you have the on-chain stuff, but because of macro, right? Like, there's nothing that it's going to take them time to resolve inflation, and they may have to do hikes. Risk assets can't, in theory, do well in hikes. Obviously, we've said stocks are playing very interesting now. You just said they're up. I kind of see two massive opposing forces. Macro, the reality of macro pushing us down, but you have this AI trade you have this AI base that is pushing us up. And I guess the question is like, what happens when an unstoppable force meets a immovable object? What's going to happen first? Are we really in a position where companies are just going to get that much more productive and successful and profitable, and they keep pushing up and fighting back? Or are they inevitably going to get blasted? What's your take?
Tom, do you want to start?
It's a hard one. There's no right answer. It's a really difficult one. It's going to be completely opinion based, but I think it'll be interesting to look at the few.
So what's the question about is this AI going to keep taking the rest of the market up, basically?
So will companies continue to perform well, and will the AI trade will continue in a sense like companies will keep being more productive, earnings will keep going higher, or is it a time where like things will pull back and this whole AI trade is like overblown? Like if I understood it correctly.
Yeah, I think pullback. I think a lot of the price act. I mean, you can still buy memory and chips. You know, you want to be buying what the mega cap tech, they're selling their equity to raise debt, stuff like that. And where are they spending that? Where's that capital expenditure going? Well, it's going in the AI build out, so memory, etc. You can buy that stuff on the pullbacks, but like this will come to, but that stuff will correct hard if you have a bad earnings season, and it might not be this time, it might be next time, but a lot of the just the AI space in general, the stock prices are priced to perfection through year end 2027, which basically means like the earnings are going to keep growing as analysts project, and the stock price reflects that growth through year end 2027. So that's basically them saying it's priced fairly through year end 2027, and nothing's going to go wrong between now and then. Like to me, it just doesn't. Sweet, cool. You know, stick your money in it, and it might go up another 10% because of the momentum. Blah blah blah. 20% because of the momentum. But if it does go wrong, you're going to get a 30-40% pullback, and then it's like it's the 10-20% upside.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
What do you think of the space sector though? Like not
space.
AI. Yeah, space.
I think the SpaceX thing is like a squeeze because the float is so low. I said this, it will probably go up a lot. I said 50% in the first couple of weeks. I think it's gone from 130 to like 220. So it's gone like 70% or whatever it is. But it's when these unlocks come in like September, October, I think then you get a lot more supply come to the market, and they will look to cash in their chips. So I wouldn't be surprised to see us be at like 220, 240, 250, and then reverse back to 100. So
yeah,
be it 220, 230, 240, somewhere in there, peak in there between now and August, and then by year end be back to 100.
Yeah, I could see that. I think people are in an interesting spot, and it's really interesting. People seem to, I'm not saying it's incorrect. People seem to think this is a fight between crypto and AI. I really don't think it's that. I think, look, it pays to be in cash right now, and I think people are aware. And you know, if you have 100,000 total, you could put half in stocks and half in crypto, but it doesn't make sense. I think people are like, okay, I'm not putting on, they're not putting the 100K in stocks. I think they're saying I'm going to keep 50K in cash. I'm not ready to deploy it in crypto just yet because I know macro is poor, but I cannot miss out on the stock play because of the way it's moving, especially because of AI. So I don't think it's like, oh, I've got my money, I'm going to choose stocks over crypto. I think people are saying, okay, look, I'm going to keep half on standby and I'll put the other half into AI right now because it seems inevitable. As soon as you do get macro pivoting, then I think the cash people do have on hand, I think they'll be willing to move into crypto. So I think the reason crypto is down is not because people are choosing to move their money from crypto to AI. I think it's like, hey, I'd rather stay in cash. AI plays are just winning because you can't deny them. And ultimately, people are forced buyers, right, as well. Like people have cash going in regardless of their pension, their ISA, etc. And I think that's what's interesting about SpaceX too. And the space sector is different to SpaceX. For me, SpaceX is interesting. I agree with Tom for the most part. And I think when you look at the unlocks it looks insane. It's like, oh my goodness, as soon as these guys get a chance, they're going to dump like crazy. But there's so much forced buying it's going to happen for SpaceX as they get added to these different indexes that I'm very curious how well they hold up. And people think SpaceX is, you know, a space company, but it's like SpaceX AI, right? It's an AI company too. So it's almost benefiting from two sectors, the space narrative, but also the AI narrative. So, I don't hold any SpaceX. Is it available on StockX overall? I don't hold any. But yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. I don't know how it performs. You were going to say, is it on StockX?
It's not but like backpack. It's on backpack
Yeah.
and it's on Ondo. So like on Hyperliquid, you can buy spot stocks now. You need to go to this Felix app, Felix. So it's a good app. And on Solana, you can use Backpack Exchange. So it's like tokenized version of SpaceX. I think it's gonna be good play in like 6 months or so, where like all these unlocks are done. Because I think the narrative is like kind of cool, like space data centers and like AI, and it's almost like the with like Neuralink, not Neuralink, what was the Starlink. So it's almost like again like a geopolitical tool rather than just a product in a sense. Like if Starlink controls like all the internet around the world, that's crazy. To be honest, that's a huge leverage to have. So I think it's going to be a very cool play, but like unlocks are just crazy. Just 2 months, like crypto is much more like organic compared to that.
Yeah.
Text that makes it look like crypto is more organic.
Yeah, I agree completely. I agree completely. What's interesting about stocks too, and we touched on AI for a second, I think space is going to be relevant too, is people are grouping together like all of AI as if they're the same thing. And it's really not. You have the data center companies, then you have the chip manufacturers, then you have like the application layer, then you have the actual energy production. So you have all these different verticals within AI. And so there are loads of like sub plays. I guess, Tom, what would be interesting is if we dive a bit deeper and say, well, which kind of vectors within a sector, in a sense, are kind of topped out and which ones
Yeah.
still have room to grow. And I think with space, as you said, abroad, like you have SpaceX, but there's different types. There's, like you said, you talk about companies focused on like satellites or something. Then you talk about companies that potentially their goal is to mine in space. So there's loads of different like subsectors within sectors. And yeah, overall, I'm bullish, but I'm a crypto guy, guys. And I just think we're approaching levels that are becoming undeniable. I do think you could have stuff like meme coins that have already bottomed. And maybe if we do see, 55, 50 on Bitcoin, I don't know. I don't know if I want to take the time to move some funds into a brokerage and go buy some SpaceX just to sell it, come back into Bitcoin. I think we could see some very good levels very soon with Bitcoin. Do you guys have your levels?
Yeah, my personal take is that BTC is putting out like a bullish divergence against stocks on the weekly, and I think it's very powerful because like I've used it. It's like probably one of the like highest probability kind of like bottom signals in a sense, um, especially the weekly one because like I've been using it like I don't know for like 8 9 years, and it's putting up like this bullish divergence. I think I don't know whether there will be one more leg down to like 55 or like 50, but overall, it feels like soon the crypto will start outperforming the stock market. Um, but yeah, this is my take. So if it goes like to 50, 55, I think it just buy and forget kind of thing. And you just buy the fear, whether there is like a supply overhang from Sailor, he's going bust or whatever, because that's the panic I think we should be buying. That's what I'm like waiting for. This uncertainty, buying this uncertainty and just roll with it.
Yeah, for sure. Tom, you feel the same way?
On some parts.
Go ahead.
So on the stock pick stuff, we picked VST. It's up 5% since we dropped it. Since we did like put the report out on it and stuff like this. I think we put it out 157. It's now 167. So it's like 6% or whatever it is. So we'll like I do think we'll improve our track record. Like, well, not improve because I think like our stock picks, even though they're few and far between, they've all been pretty decent. But we'll build that out more and more. On crypto, I think um, I don't think we outperform the stock market before year end. I think I think we roll over again. We get a move into like 55 to 58, put in a bull div on the daily, 3-day, weekly, and then we get a bounce back to like 66, 68, and then and that's over the next like 6 weeks. I then think we just basically sort of chop, grind lower, and build that sort of rounded bottom that you had in 2022. And this is what I said to you on that call today, Adam. Let me get the chart up because it's easier. So we had in 2018 bear market, we had price put in lower lows, build out rounding bottom, and then come up. That's 2018. We then had the bull run in 2020 and early 2021. And then in 2021, mid 2021, we had a big correction from 60 odd K, 65K into like 29K. And in that was from May 2021 to July 2021. And then we went from July 2021 to November 2021, new all-time high. But in that May to July period, price put in lower lows, not higher lows. It put in lower lows, which is like an almost like bearish structure that then sends price higher, lower lows in price. We then had the 2022 bear market, which had a big move for 69K in November, had a big puke out to late January to 34K, 69K to 34K. It then trended upwards, but a slow grind up with higher lows. So it didn't put in lower lows, put in higher lows, bang, rolled over again. Then it went up to 48K, rolled over to 27K, put in higher lows, like on the local time frames, rolled over again to 22K, 24K. You then had the actual period of bottoming, which is like mid 2022 onwards, mid 2022 to end of 2022, which was the lower lows, putting in that bear market bottom type structure, lower lows in price. 2023 price is going up, higher lows, but it's a new bull. So then you get to 2023, and then it kicks off late 2023, going into 2024. Then in 2024, we had the ETFs, blah, blah, all that crap at the beginning of 2024, and price put in lower highs and lower lows, and we ranged all the way up until the election. Lower highs, lower lows, and then price broke out on the election result, and then when price broke out, we then got into like late 2024, early 2025, and then we had the tariff tantrum in early mid 2025, and price kept putting in lower lows, and then putting higher lows as price came down, and then it started putting in the lower lows again, and we shot up again. So then we shot up into late 2025, and we peaked in October 2025, 126K. Price has now rolled over again, and we've now seen the same structure we saw in late 2021, 2022, which is price rolls over, puts in higher lows, grinds up, rolls over, puts in higher lows, rolls over. And now we're still at the point now where when we bottomed in early February at that 60K low, we then didn't put in lower lows. We put in higher lows in that slow, boring grind up, and then price shit itself, rolled over. And we've then now put in the first lower low, but on the local time frame, we once again have higher lows. And now I think we're seeing price roll over again. I want to see price come down, bottom, and put in the lower lows. A bounce up, but then another lower low. This might be the first one on the one we've just seen in early June. This might be the first one we're seeing to build that rounding bottom pattern that puts in the lower lows. This might be worth me doing like an actual like presentation on or something, and sorry for the ramble, but what the message of this is, when we have these like corrections, we usually get lower lows and price moves up from there. So lower highs, lower on the correction, lower highs, lower lows, price can bounce and put in a meaningful bounce. But when we have the bear market type structure, price comes down locally, higher highs, higher lows, but then rolls over. So it's like a bearish
Yeah,
structure
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
way. And I don't
Yeah.
think we've
Bear
repeated.
flag kind of thing.
And yeah, and if you look at 2021, it did that same lower lows, went up to new all-time highs. Before the election in 2024, lower lows with the lower highs, almost like a large bull flag, price went up. Tariff tantrum, same thing, lower lows, price went up. And now, late 2025 into, sorry, what we now, 2026, yeah, my mind's just gone blank. Late 2025 and 2026, we've kept having the same thing, which is price rolls over, you then have price move up, but putting in higher lows, higher highs on the local structures, and then price rolls over. So I think we need to transition to that point where we're seeing price put in the lower lows and the bottom structure. And I think we're at the beginning of that now. I think it can take another 6 months. But I think we're there now, like is in starting to put that in. So I think that, sorry for the ramble, but yeah, I
That was
can't remember
good.
what the question is. Sorry.
There was no question. You just started speaking on your own accord, but it was really enjoyable. So that's good. I guess I will ask you both, like, based off the back of that, what does someone do right now? Like, are they just sitting on their hands? Are they starting to DCA into Bitcoin? Are they splitting? Are they buying some stocks but keeping cash on the side? What's the game plan? I'll start with you, bro.
Yeah, I think there are still money to be made in crypto. For example, right now, if you do basis trade on hype, the yield is like would be 74% annualized. Obviously, like it like varies, but like probably like you can earn 30% or something annualized because there is so much demand for leverage when it comes to trading hype and like Zcash and stuff like that. So there is still money to be made, even like if you say, oh, it's a bear market. And it's delta neutral. That's the first thing. The second thing, I think, again, like, you know, if I also start like talking about 2021, 22, like if you look at the stock market versus BTC, it's putting the exact same bottom structure, like a bullish weekly divergence, as it was in 2022 when it put the bottom against stock. But then it chopped a little bit, but ultimately that was the bottom thing. So that's what I'm like kind of struggling with. Is that on the one hand, you need to look at the price action, and on the other hand, you need to look, okay, summer is generally choppy, not a great time to buy, like everyone is on vacation and stuff like that. So I think if like you have like long enough time horizon, I think 63K below 60K is already very good value for BTC because it's down. I'm pretty sure Bitcoin will make all-time highs, in the future. And it's like already down like 50% from highs. If it's like 126,
Yeah,
that would be like
50.
60, something 64, that would be like it's down more than 50%. So you can 2x your like portfolio like in like I don't know, maybe like 2 3 years. So I think it's quite a good deal. Stock market S&P 500, it takes like 7 years to double your portfolio.
Hey, not with these AI stocks, bro. You're getting like no, like that's the reality, right? Like if you get the right AI play, you basically got a meme coin, which I think is why people want to speculate so hard. It's crazy. These things are moving wild, but I hear you. I'll give you guys an interesting note because I'm not a trader. CLPs, concentrated liquidity pools. I've shared it in the Discord. I know no one wants to buy hype right now because it's too high, it's too high. I'm gonna wait for $20, $30. If you do $20 to $100 on hype, you're getting like 43% APY.
Crazy.
So 20 to 100, not saying it's gonna hold that APR, but think about this. You put 100K into the hype USDC pool, 20 to 100. Hey, if hype runs, you're basically exiting like a percentage of hype. You're going to be up anywhere in your base. Hey, if you average, I'm not sure what the technical price is, but if you essentially start DCAing down into hype between current price and the $20, I'm not sure what your average buy price of hype ends up being, but it's probably close to like, I don't know, maybe the $40 mark. I'm not sure. So you're telling me today I can go in, I put in, let's say $100,000 and a bit of hype, a bit of USDC. If it tanks to $20, I've essentially bought hype at $40. And hey, exit the position, hold the spot. You DCA down, you bought, you got yield along the way. Or if hype really is what a lot of people think it is, and it's way undervalued and it runs, hey, I just DCA'd out of hype at like what? $75, $75, $80. So I think if I was to make one play today with 100K cash, I would throw in to the hype USDC pool if I had to make a play and I didn't just want to sit on cash. So yeah, I don't know about you guys, but 40% is no joke. 40% a year.
Yeah.
If all of us are going to go,
I'll get involved.
If everyone goes, well, look, what's a price, Tom, you'd be happy buying hype at? Yeah, this is the play. Well, no, but even then, what's a price if you had to get spot position in hype? You'd be like, you know what, I'm happy. That's my spot position. I'll hold until it runs. What's a good price for hype?
Do you know what? I look at hype now and just think like are they not going to have issues later down the line with like KYC and stuff like that?
Look, they could have KYC issues. They could have security issues. The ecosystem's a bit shit, to be honest. But if you think it's going to perform and you want some sort of exposure, but you don't feel good just spot buying today at $70, you've got options, right? One of them is, I'm going to wait for 50. I'm going to wait for 30. I'm going to wait for 10. And some people will say, no, I'm buying now because it's going to 100. It's way undervalued. And, they could be right. But opening a pool today, the worst case scenario and where you'd be messing up, obviously you have like, opportunity cost. But if hype dies, like if it really is a security breach or, it's super overvalued and it tanks, that's the same risk spot holders are taking. If anything, they're taking more risk than us.
40.
Yeah, because we're getting paid in USDC as well.
Yeah, and that's 20 to 100. You don't have to go, like, if we play around with some ranges, if you want to put something like, let's see,
35 or something like that.
But even then, like 30 to 90, nearly 60%. Like, and if you really believe we're going to be in a ranging market, like I dropped this in the socializing channel. Not socializing. I dropped it in passive income. I'm going to add everyone. They need to see this. So yeah, that's an important. So I don't know what's going to happen now. All of us are going to go put some cash in. The community is going to see it, and yield's going to drop to like 20%. So maybe I self-fumbled here, but I think this is a great way to get exposure. And hype's the only asset when I speak to the community where everyone has FOMO. I wouldn't recommend going to do a Sol USDC pool, or a meme coin with USDC. I couldn't do it because you guys, like, we are quite confident it's headed down a lot lower. So it makes sense to wait for a better entry in a CLP or spot buy. Whereas hype, everyone I know is concerned and not sure. Everyone's getting it wrong. Like, we don't know what a good value bid is. I spoke to Asad today, and he said, look, if you can get low 60s, that's a play. That probably sounds crazy to you, Tom, right? Even you, Abro. But hey, has he been wrong yet? I think he's been getting hype solid for a while. So I don't know. I think I'm going to do this liquidity pool on hype.
Low 60s. Yeah, I mean, there is a support over there.
Like, I'm just thinking, like I said, 30 to 90. You're saying if I put in 100 grand, I'm getting 60% over the year. Like, I know it's not going to maintain. It's theory. But if we have a choppy market, like Tom thinks we go a bit lower, but then we move sideways for a while. If that's the case and activity continues the way it does, the APY should sustain because we're moving sideways. It's not like we're in a super bearish like thing right now with the markets crashing, or the market's running like crazy, where yields are super high. Yield would probably increase as we're seeing a big pullback, and or if we start spiking. So I think that's, if I was to give people one play right now, I would do it, to be honest. I don't know what else I'd do. I'd rather do this over buying a stock. And it's the only play I'd do. Otherwise, sit in cash, hold your Aura bags, hold your Bitcoin. But yeah, this is the one active play I think I'd take. I'd love for it to drop a bit lower. So maybe I wait until we drop to hopefully 65 or low 60s. But I don't know, guys. It looks good to me.
I'll do that. If it gets to 50, I'll do that. I feel like hype is very like hyped at the minute. I do feel Like there's nothing bad about it anywhere. So it's not like climbing the wall of worry. I feel like it's just already, and it had a higher valuation the other day than I think it was Coinbase and like Robinhood possibly. I think it was definitely Coinbase though, and it just I don't know. It doesn't. Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't. I don't feel like it's going to 150. You know,
We're not in this market. I don't know if things like go super risk on. I wouldn't put a cap on it, but I also don't know if it's going back to 20 again. And
no,
so
I agree on that. Yeah,
it's like, okay, like if you, because what would you do if you're abroad? You said you're collecting in USDC,
Collecting USDC, what you
like
mean?
with your yield when you've got your yield coming in. So
Yeah.
look, if you're getting like hypothetically the 30 to 90, you're getting 60% on 100K, and then you're getting what, like 5K a month or something like that, maybe lower. I think the math on that is 5K a month. Go DCA into Bitcoin over the next like year, or go keep the cash and do something else with it. So you don't have to just keep it in
I
hype.
know a guy who had like a CLP position and he had a like leverage long on hype when it was like 25 or something. And as hype would go lower, he would add margin and like add to his long
build it.
from the
Yeah,
yield from CLP. So he would kind of average down and like increase his margin and increase his long position from the yield that he was generating from CLP. And it worked out like pretty decently.
yeah.
So like
As long
something
as you
that,
don't get liquidated beforehand.
huh?
As long as you don't get liquidated
Yeah,
beforehand.
yeah, that's why you need to have yield because yields are
Yeah,
kind of very massive for like on Hyperliquid. So you just keep adding the margin and keep averaging your like your entry. I think I would do CLP. I'm just like um, I think I know Hype super well. I love the project. I love everything about it, but I just don't feel like it's on a discount. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like maybe I just am wrong and I'm struggling. Maybe it will shoot to like 120, 150. Because if you look at it, it is accruing much more value relative to like Solana, BNB, or like Ethereum, and they're trading at like 200 billion valuations. And hype, even though FDV is like high, like if it goes like to $200, FDV would be like a 200 billion, but the circulating market cap would probably be like 60 billion or 70 billion, which is like, which is what matters at the time. So I'm not really sure. And the chart looks like double topping, to be honest. That's why I'm like,
what do you for what Adam's talking about there, that CLP pool, like 60% a year sounds like class to me. Um, what price would you look at and think like, okay, I can just get, because I think if I get 60% yield a year, it's basically taking 60% off my cost basis. So if
yeah,
I buy at 50,
Mhm.
it's like if I hold for a year, it's like the equivalent of like 20 being your break even.
yeah, as long as you stay in the range. But I feel like if it's like 30 to like 90, I think it will stay in that range.
Yeah, or you might get a worse claim. Well, I mean, I don't think we'll ever. Maybe we'll see sub 20. I don't know, but um, even if it came out of that range, i.e., below 30, it probably wouldn't be there for long.
Yeah, yeah,
Even
yeah,
if that happened, probably wouldn't happen.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, it could, it
Probably
could.
low 60s because there is a support, but like I would probably go with a smaller size and maybe add after this, probably double top. Because like I feel like these things tends to play out more often than not, like in crypto especially. This head and shoulder Zcash, there was a clear head and shoulder forming before the crash. Um, double top on hype forming, the clear head and shoulder on like higher time frame on Solana before it broke down 120 all the way like to 67 or like 69. So I like to
Can,
enter when I know like I'm entering at a discount rather than fair price.
can I also ask? I was like just chatting with like KDB quite a bit this last like 5 days or so. And he's like farming variational and other dexes like that. Is there a reason to stick with hype over moving your trading to variational, you know, bulk trade? These are other ones because I've started looking at the farming stuff like this. I think I smashed a ton of volume in. I've lost money, like trying to basically just trying to get my volume as high as possible, and I've got a ridiculous amount of volume in like 1 week, or whatever. But it's cost me money to do it. What is there a reason that Hyperliquid is going to stay this like hyped, even though you're going to get people moving to variational and those others?
I think the key here, because I've tried trading on other platforms, but like the liquidity is so bad. Like, if you look open interest and volumes, it's
Yeah.
like what's Hype has the liquidity and participants, so it's almost like a network effect that it has. So if you're moving to other platforms, first of all, UI UX isn't as good at variation. I feel like
Yeah,
you
it's
wouldn't
not.
have like a, I don't know whether they've changed, but last time I checked, they didn't have like a weekly chart, or like 3-day chart. They just had like daily chart. I was like,
Variational, I don't even think has the order book, so
they
you
don't
can't
even,
see the bids and asks being filled.
yeah, I think so. They had like this kind of UI UX because I've looked through them, all of them, and I would be like sharing feedback. Um, I think lighter is the only one that looks interesting, to be honest, in terms of like being a hedge against hype. If you want to like diversify your activity, like of your trading activity, but variational. Like if you're just doing for the sake of an airdrop, yes, sure, but like I'm not sure because I tried to short all this stuff like AVAX and Atom and all this stuff like on those platforms, and the volume would be like 200K, like 24 hour, and my size is like 50 grand, and I go like, you'll move the price on those kind of like uh, you know platforms. So Hype has the liquidity, and it's hard to beat that.
Yeah, so people won't move away from it basically, like because that's more my question is like if it does come down to 50, say, and I want to go and do this like CLP pool and get the 60% a year, because I don't feel like 50 is that great a discount, but if it means I can get 60% yield a year, then sweet. But is there something in 6 months, 9 months, 12 months time? I know there might be something that comes along then that we can't see today, but is there anything out there today that is going to cause people to like migrate from Hyperliquid to somewhere else, and then all of a sudden then ruin that trade I'm going to get in for that I need to stay in for a year to get the 60% yield?
I think regulatory could be an issue. For example, if
Yeah,
people say,
Yeah.
hey, US is gonna be US users can only trade on like Robinhood or Coinbase, that could be an issue. And they will just ban Hyperliquid, just like they banned Pump Fund in the UK. They go like, okay, you're not doing this. So that could be an issue. But I feel like they have a guy who worked for Circle who is like working with like all these policymakers to make it legal. And I feel like what's going to happen, Coinbase will integrate Hyperliquid as a backend for its front end for its perps and like stock trading and all of that stuff. So there are rumors circulating that's going to happen, and it makes sense because USDC now the official treasurer of Hyperliquid, and they are like paying like 95% of their treasury yield to buy back Hype, which is like huge, to be honest. And then they bought like bunch of Hype, I don't know, like 20 million or 30 million, and they staked it. So there is like, and like Circle has a stake in Coinbase, and Coinbase has a stake in Circle. So I feel like they could like make this synergetic and integrate Hyperliquid as a backend for Coinbase's front end. And then everyone in the USA, like Hyperliquid would get a license to operate like um, in the USA. And Coinbase has like massive like retail users and like all these institutional users that can like they could direct into like Hyperliquid. That probably could be huge. So this is how I see probably things might play out, like upcoming catalysts.
Yeah, yeah, and look, a lot of that just comes down to it's the same risk buying spot hype, right? If there are regulatory risks, if something goes wrong, yeah, that's going to happen to the people who spot bought versus the people who CLP'd. It's that yield that can pay dividends because it's also like, okay, it depends. 60%, it's what you do with that too. Like if you put it in back into trading or you buy a different asset that can outperform, it can compound massively. You buy Bitcoin and you think Bitcoin doubles. Like there's a lot of upside there. I think it's a safe way to get exposure, especially because it's like, look, a lot of people don't want to buy at 70, but you're basically buying the like the middle, right? You're buying like 45, etc. I'm going to do a lot of thinking on this. My greedy side says wait for a pullback too. But my side that's like, you know what, it's only a little bit. It's not going to make a massive difference. Might just go and open one today. I think at the same time, it's like there is a lot of, like me and Tom were talking about this morning. There could be big pullback on the table. Like I know Bitcoin's close to like 60 now. I don't know, like if it drops 10% to 64, to 54, right? That's not too bad. But earlier today, you know, we were like, what?
It was 65 or 66.
So that's a lot. That's a lot. That's a lot. So it's like just a few hours could make such a big difference on your entry. But then again, what's hype at right now? Let me look at hype right now. 67?
67, yeah.
Okay, so it was at 70 earlier today, right?
72, 73, yeah.
Okay, so see, when I see that, I'm like, okay, it's down $5. I could have opened the pool in the morning. It's down $5. What's stopping it from tonight going down another $5? Then I'm a lot happier, right? There are factors, but yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting. Abroad, obviously, yield watch, we can consider putting something in. But look, we shared one play there, a potential hype play. Tom, if you had to give one play for someone to make, you could say, look, just go buy Zcash spot right now. I don't know what you want to play. What would your one play be? And I want to hear Abroad's one play.
So as I said to you today, I'm not that interested in much at the minute. But like even that one, if hype was to come down to 50 odd, I do think that would be a good like diversifier for me. And I would just see it as a good opportunity to like pick up a wage with a 60% yield. But again, I don't know if I'd buy it at 67. If it came down to like, I see a big support in the late 40s to 50 area. So if it did come down to that, I might use that as my level, and then I would think, okay, it's a decent discount, I'll grab it. But so there's not much that like we've all spoken about that is like really like, you know, not just on this call, but like on other calls internally in our chats, etc. That I look at and these ideas come up that I think, oh yeah, that actually sounds quite attractive. Other than that hype LP pool you just mentioned there. In terms of like the other assets like Bitcoin, Sol, etc. I don't think they're that far from a bottom, like an actual price bottom. I think if you're DCAing here lightly, you're fine. I think if you can get Bitcoin in the low 50s, I think it'll go low 50s. Like I feel quite confident it'll go low 50s. If you can get an average sort of DCA full allocation in like mid 50s, low 50s, I think you would have really smashed it. But I think it's a time thing. This is what I was going to ask Abroad this earlier when you said about the chop. Like, how long do you see this period of chop? Like, I think this period of chop could be 6 months. And then even in like, I think of late 2022, early 2023, prices were grinding higher. But in early 2023, no one actually believed we were in a new bull, even though prices were up a little bit. So I think for me, I would take advantage of, again, sorry for long answer, but I would take advantage of that hype pool you mentioned if hype came down to like a decent level, which for me would be like late 40s, 50 area. If it doesn't come down to there, I would just leave it. I don't like the idea of chasing, feeling like I'm in a position that I don't love. And then I would look at DCAing Bitcoin at those levels, and Sol. If we get Sol between 30 and 50, but if we get Sol between 30 and 40, I think I know it's difficult for me because my job is on this, you know, every day 24/7, so I should be like wise for opportunities. But if we got sold at like a 35, I think I would just put in like a chunk and try to sell it for a 5x minimum in 2 to 3 years time. So then it might actually cause me more harm by being online every day, if that makes sense. But that's how I'm thinking and like seeing stuff at the moment. That hype LP pool was the first thing that's like attracted me for a while. Bitcoin, I think, is close-ish to a bottom, but I still think it's got another 20% to go. Low 50s are for like aggressively DCAing rather than just like light. But if you're doing light DCAs now, you're fine. And then Sol, 30 to 50, cool. But if you get 30 to 40, go for it.
Okay, I got a question for you before Bro answers. Sol at 40, hype at 40. Which one you picking?
Sol at 40.
Sol at 40. Bro, what about you?
Hype at 40.
Okay, I want to make I need to hear the case. Bro, you're the technical one, so like you can start. I guess Tom can after, but yeah, Make the case. 40-40.
I think in terms of like again, Sol at 40, um, still would be at massive valuation multipliers. To be honest, it would be probably like 2000x P, something like that. Uh, and hype would be like at like if you're looking at the circulating market cap, it would be at like 15 to 18x PE ratio. So I think if you're a value investor, it would be like a better value for like hype. And I think how they're doing it, the way they're managing the business is quite interesting. Like for example, Solana has like 14 billion of USDC parked in the ecosystem, and Hyperliquid has like what, like 4 billion, 5 billion. But like they forced Circle to revenue share and buy back hype. Like obviously, um, it would be much better for Solana to do the same on the ecosystem, but they can't enforce that because Solana is like decentralized and they have like 700 different validators, right? But like Hype is kind of like, 18 validators and like half of them is like Hyperliquid Foundation. So they can enforce this kind of decision. Um, so I think they are in a very strong position. And in terms of as a business, it looks much more attractive in terms of value, like if hype at 40. And one thing I wanted to mention, even though like hype was like at 76 yesterday, um, and it was like 25% above its all-time highs in terms of price, like previous, like last year, May 2021
Yeah.
all-time high, the market cap was still like below last year's all-time high. So if you look from the valuation perspective, at 75, you are buying at cheaper prices than you would buy like at like $60 last year on May, which is like ridiculous thing. Like if you really,
Yeah.
it's very confusing because normal people would think that they are buying at higher prices because like 75 is bigger than 60. But like if you look at the market cap, you are actually buying at 75 at cheaper prices, which
It's
is like,
just anti-circulating supply, right?
yeah.
Okay.
Uh,
Hmm.
which is like, wow, this is like, this is crazy. So if they continue this way, I think hype will be cheaper, and I think the demand for hype will be massive. And they don't have a supply overhang. I think Solana has like underwater dats. Um, they've gone through multiple hacks recently, and then people got tired from like Trump meme coin, lots of racks on the ecosystem. Andrew Tate, Trump, Melania. I don't know how to pronounce.
Why do you keep talking about Tom's role models, bro? Like, like he's
Yeah,
getting
so
defensive.
that's the case for hype.
Okay.
$40, under $40.
Tom, sort him out, Tom. Give us the lowdown.
I think he's that he's when he says that to me, I now think to myself, oh, maybe I go 50-50
Yeah.
with this. But it's I don't know. I just see Sol has been like it's traded so much higher in the past. I get it's like Abroad knows the tokenomics better than I do on both of them. I don't know. I've seen Sol trade at like 260, 280 before, and again I know the unlocks were now, so it's harder for
Yeah.
to new price with some highs and things like this. But I think if I can get 40 into like 150, 160, I just think that's what. So you Abroad, do you think it's more likely that hype would go from 40 to 160 quicker than, or more likely to go from 40 to 160 than Sol is to go from 40 back to 160?
Yeah, I think I have
Really?
like very high confidence in that. I feel like the only thing is that like I feel like I think Adam said very interesting thing yesterday, like to me, is that these assets, it's not like only about the performance, but rather how you can structure portfolio. Like hype has like specific purpose. It's like a buyback revenue generating machine. But like if you want exposure to, for example, payments, AI agents, and all the stuff, you can't do those kind of thing on hype, and you need to bet like on Solana or like even Ethereum. Like I don't think payment works very well on Ethereum, but like you get me.
It'll
There
be
have
Sol,
like very
surely.
unique use cases, and you want to kind of have like exposure to different potential futures for crypto. So then you have like hype and so, but like for hype, if you ask me what will outperform, I would go with like hype, okay, because there's clear case. But like someone might argue, but like I feel like, you know, you have Clarity Act and then payments might be a huge thing. But then how do you get exposure? You don't get exposure to payments via hype. Okay, you get exposure via like Sol, maybe like Coinbase because they have like base network, which is like fast and cheap for payments. Um, so I think they might have like different purposes in your portfolio.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Look, I asked the question. I think all of us would choose like a split, right? I asked because one of the members asked if we had to pick one. Yeah, it's all about portfolio structure, right? I
Yeah.
think how the big boys do it, it's, like an asset has to play a role, and then the goal is for it. Ideally, you want to outperform, and then you got to rebalance. Right? There are many elements that go into it. Like, what are the risk factors for the given asset, right? Like, and then how does that make me want to structure a portfolio? Hype, it's its first cycle, right? This is Hype's first bear market. I believe like proper bear market, and the next run be its proper like big bull market, right? Solana's been around for multiple cycles. It's been down 95% and recovered. So it's proven itself, right? I'm not saying Hype won't. I'm pretty confident it does, but you have to factor that in. Like Hype has a few risk factors that Solana doesn't, right? And that's good. That means, okay, well, I've got the case for Sol. I think you can make a very strong case on saying there's a case for holding all three, actually. People like to say, oh, no, they're all layer one, so pick one. It's like, no, they're still very, very different. I think that's the issue. People think, even with AI stocks, I'm buying VST. Why would I buy any other AI stocks? VST is my AI pick. It's like, oh no, like there's so many sub elements of that. With layer ones, Hype, Sol, ETH all serve very different roles in your portfolio. And I would get exposure to all of them. And you should expect Hype to outperform, right? It's the most speculative. And you should expect Ethereum to perform the least. But arguably, it's the most proven up until now, right? What was it, 2017, 2021, and then like a 2025 token? It's like age is a factor, right? Use case is a factor. I would get exposure to all three. The bigger question is how to get exposed, right? Spot buy, CLP, where are your exits? What's the right balance of the three? How do they fit within a portfolio? And then all about timing too. Like perp dexes are running right now, right? They're hot. Whereas Solana, but then the ecosystem, like HyperVM, not so much. And then you look at Solana and it's like, yeah, ultimately volumes are down and memes aren't there. But we've just said the retailer is not punting on meme coins yet. When he inevitably does, he most likely will go back to Sol because he already has the wallet, right? He will go back to Ethereum because he already bought SPX a couple of years ago. And with Ethereum, you can't deny the security. And that's where the big boys are playing. Because look, let's say just Solana and ETH, let's say Hyperliquid didn't exist. They both serve very different roles. But look, you have a lot of DATs underwater with Solana abroad. So you have lots of like issues with Solana too, fundamentally. But I think all three make sense. I think at 40, I'd throw my money at both of them. I'm not sure what's that, like $1,000 ETH. I throw my money at that too. But yeah.
What's the broad price for ETH? So are you at $1,000, Adam, for ETH?
I don't know if we get there. If we do, I'd be very happy. For me, I've like people make jokes about holding ETH all the time. I've heard it for years, and I get it. It's underperformed at points. But hey, I had the chance to exit at 5K twice, right? Whether I did or I didn't, that was up to me. But I had swings up. I rode it from like sub 1,000 up to 5K. I had that. I had the same experience the other way. Do I think it's going to happen again? I think it will happen again. But yeah, look, oh my God, if I had $1,000 ETH on the table, a 50K Bitcoin, a $40 Hype, and a $40 Sol, oh my goodness.
Buy
like
all
that's
of them and
insane.
like forget about the market and just sleep, go sleep.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Turn it off for 2 years and you come back and this is why I say in the update sometimes, like the time to be here is not to be in the bull when it. I mean, you do get the mega ones. I remember when Trump got shot in the top of his ear, and the phrase at the time was dog with hat, the hat stays on. That was just like the hat stays on. And then I saw, it was like late at night, it was like 2 a.m. my time, and Trump got shot, and I saw the meme pop, which was the year stays on. I just thought I'll clip like a couple of grand into this. I woke up the next day, it was worth like 50 odd grand. So what I'm about to say, like that sort of contradicts what I'm about to say, but really, I think the hard work should be done in the bear market to buy the stuff at the right time, and in the bull market, just log off, like let the market do the work for you, and then sell it all when everyone's euphoric, or really sort of like up on their money. You don't know too many people that are down, but I really think it's more worth prioritizing, putting your energy and focus in the bears rather than the bulls.
I agree. I have one more question because I remember asked bro, what's the score with backpack? So we covered backpack as an airdrop. So we're very early on that. I can't wait to talk about how we got backpack early. Same way we got hype early. So what's going on with backpack? What happened with the stock stuff? And give the guys a bit of a breakdown on backpack.
Yeah, I think they've done really well with like tokenized stocks. So they brought tokenized stocks to Solana. And as far as I know, from what I can see, Solana is becoming the best place to trade spot tokenized stocks. Like, like better than Hype. Because Hype is great for like perps, but like for spot apparently isn't as good. So that could be like a bookcase for like Solana, because they're doing super well because they have like two great players now. X stocks doing incredibly well in terms of like growth, and now you have like backpack. So they brought tokenized stocks, and the coin rallied like I don't know, from like 400% or something like that. But like it's putting a bearish divergence, which I don't like. It plays out again, again, again. That means like momentum is slowing down. So, but I'm actively looking at it. I feel like it could be interesting. The only thing I don't like, and I mentioned, the only thing like I disliked about backpack at the time was like, and it went down to be fair, like 60% from the airdrop day, was that they require KYC. So like I don't want to KYC to buy stocks. Like I can buy X stocks. I can go like buy X stocks and don't do KYC. So they require KYC, and that's why like I never kind of like ended up like buying stocks on backpack. But like we have team members who KYC there, and they're like big fans. So yeah, it looks solid if it's pullbacks. But like they also have like this equity structure, which I kind of fundamentally disagree like philosophically, because it diverts incentives, because team members would be like making sure that equity gets valuable rather than token holders, like value going to token holders. So the value would be like going to like equity holders. So that's two of my issues with like backpack. But like if they're becoming like the project, that's like, because I also don't like Ondo, to be honest, because they like unlocks and stuff, they're not like crypto native, and like the UI UX isn't as good, and they're not like retail friendly. So backpack could be that retail friendly thing. So they could be like, I'm okay, I think it could be a play as well, but like right now it's like momentum selling, so I wouldn't chase it.
Yeah, makes sense. You mentioned a really good point there. You can have the coolest products, but if the tokenomics aren't right, and/or you do see a lot of the time the equity and the token, they don't quite line up. Look at Venice, right? That's another case of like, okay, the token versus the actual like equity holder, there's a bit of misalignment. But what's cool is there are a lot of cool products out there that people will get right. What makes Hyperliquid so good is the product. So someone is going to get decentralized AI right. Someone is going to do the whole stocks on chain right. And we just have to keep our heads close to the ground to make sure we find these. And those are the plays outside of memes, right? You need more than just memes to build a portfolio. So yeah, guys, this was really good. I enjoyed it. I feel we touched on everything. We answered pretty much all of the questions I saw in the community. Anything you want to close us off with?
No, I think we covered pretty much everything.
Cool. Okay, thank you guys. Appreciate it. Thanks for watching. And Louise, you can take us offline.